How many hours is a reasonable working hour? There is a lot of discussion happening around this, that what is reasonable working hours. Rather than saying what is right or wrong, let's try and discuss this from an organization standpoint. As an organization, our expectation is that we should be able to deliver to clients' deliverables, to our customers' deliverable by a certain timeline by using a certain set of resources. Okay. Similarly, in order to ensure that those resources are able to deliver to their fullest, we need to maintain those resources. Now, if you had a machine, yes, we would like to make sure that the machine works for 24 hours, 100 hours without maintenance, but we do need the machine to be given rest so that it can perform at its optimal level. Since we are focusing on human resources, let's assume human as a resource or human as a machine, and if this machine were to deliver, this amount of 8 hours or 9 hours was created as a result of certain research. It was created as a result of certain movement, certain expectations, demands, and is backed by certain verified data that this is the amount of time which will help maintain this human machine to perform effectively. So rather than getting into a dialogue or a discussion on what should be done, we would like to keep the focus of discussion in terms of what is allowed to be done. A person can be allowed to perform a certain level of hours per day, per week. Yes, overtime is allowed in India, but again, there is a limit to how much overtime is allowed to be done. As an organization, we would recommend that you should stick to that. Do not cross the overtime limit, because if you are able to do, and as human resource professionals, we believe that if people perform as per the standard hours, 8 hours per day, which in any case is 48 hours per week, you will have a high amount of productivity. You don't need to spend more hours. What you need to spend is on enhancing productivity. People can spend less amount of time and be highly productive. So if as an organization you are finding that you are not able to deliver on time, or you are having issues, then I think the issue lies on the productivity side rather than the time side. And productivity does not necessarily mean people being in office for 8 hours. It means that being in office for 8 hours and doing what? Are they spending those 8 hours doing the productive delivery? Let's talk from an example standpoint. An average human being, based on studies, based on research, if they come to an office for 8.5 hours, which means 30 minutes of lunch break, okay, and 8 hours of working, would have only 5 hours and 45 minutes of time to perform their activities which are written in the job description. That means that if I am supposed to take calls, I can only take calls for 5 hours 45 minutes effectively, because I would have some amount of time to get up and go to the washroom. I would have some amount of time where I will spend time wasting checking my phones. I would have some amount of time gossiping. I would have some amount of time where the technology will fail me. So like this, based on research, it comes out standard that 5 hours 45 minutes is what every person can spend delivering on what needs to be delivered on their job descriptions. As an organization, what needs to be done is not to increase this 8.5 hours per day where you call people to the office to 12 hours or 10.5 hours, but to see how these 5 hours 45 minutes can be increased to 6, or if in this 5 hours 45 minutes the delivery is happening of 100, how I can make it more efficient to make sure now the delivery is of 120 or 130. That is where we need to work on the productivity and efficiency, not on working hours. Unless the governments do decide, okay, we are going to change the working hours, then that's a different issue. That's for others to decide. Today, I think the discussion is more on what we are allowed. So today we are allowed to have 9 hours of working, which includes break in it, which includes a weekday off, which is a Sunday necessarily needs to be off, or one weekday needs to be off. Out of 9 hours, 1 hour worth of breaks is necessary. So 8 hours of work time. Anything beyond this, you need to give overtime, or you need to be considered as an overtime. Whether people are doing it or not doing it is a separate issue, but this is what exists as an appropriate work hour as per what is allowed in India today.